Hi, welcome to the Lone Star Dowsers. I'm Mary Lindsay Wilson, your host, and I want to thank you for tuning in. I also want to really acknowledge those who've donated to the Lone Star Dowsers and to let you know that we really appreciate that. And if you find value in what we're providing, please donate. There's ways to donate kind of at the bottom of the newsletter. So we appreciate that. And we want to welcome everybody that is joining us online that's here tonight. And welcome to all our local folks in Houston at the Aurora Chapel Watch Party. We are very happy to be able to, I don't know if it's bilocate, I don't know, to have local group, online group, and this will be that people can enjoy this in the future. So, having said all that, I want to just say tonight our speaker is Hope Fitzgerald, and Hope is got a very impressive bio. I may have to read some of this. She's an intuitive dowser. She's a spiritual teacher and healer. And she works with the infinity wave, which is a 10th dimensional tool that can upgrade our situation. And she's going to share her journey tonight and demonstrate how to do the infinity wave. And she's also going to, share some of that with us. And let me just read a little bit about Hope's background, and then she can fill us in on the details. She had an awakening at Findhorn.
You can't do it. I'll do it. It goes next to the HVAC, and it has to go in a certain way.
Can you mute yourself, please?
Try.
Hang on.
I did.
Everybody needs to be muted so we can have a clear recording. All right, so Hope had a pretty powerful experience in Findhorn in 1976, and I think that opened the door for her with a lot of avenues with philosophy and esoteric healing, and all sorts of skills, being the intuitive dowser. She does spiritual coaching, she channels, what else do I say? Yeah, she also takes small groups around the world to power places, including Peru, Easter Island, South Africa, France, England, Wales, Ireland, and several different places in the US. And during these shamanic adventures, she teaches ways to communicate with the land and believes that the powerhouse of the human heart interacting with a highly charged site, that there's this beautiful alchemy that occurs, and it guaranteed to shift in consciousness. So Hope is also an energy healer, a neurofeedback practitioner, and what she calls a midwife to the afterlife. So welcome, Hope.
Oh, thank you. That was a mouthful, Mary. Sorry you had to go through all of that. But thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm never happier than when I'm in the room with a bunch of dowsers. So I really love it. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you here. My intention is to inspire and educate with these programs so that, interviewing different people around the world and how they use dowsing. And then hopefully that will inspire people to branch out and find different things that work for them and gain tools that they can use in our lives, because I believe we're here to help one another.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I also love your premise, because ultimately dowsing is an incredibly creative activity. It's how I'm going to do it a little different than you're going to do it, but your way is going to suit you really, really well, and my way is going to suit me really, really well. So, excuse me, it's as different from person to person, and that's a good thing. And then we get inspired to try something. Oh, I never tried it that way. Let me try, so sharing our different techniques, I think, is wonderful. It's one of the reasons I like to go to Dowsing conference, of which there are several, most of you know, around the not just the US, but overseas as well. Anyway, I think that, did you want me to just jump in here, Mary? Or?
Yeah, you want to tell kind of the story of how all this sort of unfolded and yeah,
Well, yeah, I think you're going to love the fact. Are you a native Texan?
I'm a native Houstonian.
Oh, wow.
Even more rare, right?
Wow. Okay. Well, I think you'll love the fact that my relationship with dowsing began in Dallas.
Wow.
That's where it started. I was a mother of 2 little babies, 2 under 2. And my husband worked very long hours in advertising. And we were pretty much living on the edge, you know. It was you didn't get paid a lot. And with 2 kids, well, you know. So I was trying to figure out something I could do. I was a stay-at-home mom. And my neighbor came over and said one day, told us she was going to move, and asked me, because I had done a little mini renovation, little thing on our house. She said, I just don't have the knack, and it looks like you do. So could you just come over to my house and do a little something? And this is before staging was a thing. So I said, sure. So I got my husband to watch the kids on the weekend, and I thought I'd be over there for maybe 2 hours at the max, right? Well, I started to do this and I started to do that, and I tweaky. Anyway, moving furniture eventually. And the realtor came over and took one look and said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You ought to do this as a business. Yeah, it's brighter, it's bigger, it feels amazing. And I said, well, I don't even know what I would call it, except that it's not really how you're going to live, because I know some of these things are not the most convenient for a family, but it's kind of like a set. And I came from that first half of my life was in theater and television and all that kind of thing. So I said, it's kind of like setting a stage. And she said, well, I'm going to recommend you to my, whatever, my team. And long story short, I start staging. And this became a thing, and it got an article about me, all this stuff. But the point of it is that my first client was my toughest client. And it was this gal who was one of those strong Texas women. And it took a while to melt her. But as soon as she melted, man, she was mine, and we became fast friends. And she was interested in, as I was, in feng shui. I'd heard about it. I was curious. I didn't, but I do little babies, blah, blah, blah. So lo and behold, her house sells in a week for full asking price after I got done with it, after not having had a bite for a year. And so she was like, we are going to go take a feng shui class. So we did. And it was this class where you went to each person's house every Tuesday night for about 6 weeks. So the night they came to my house, she walks in the front door, our teacher, and she's got a bunch of wire hangers in one hand and some wire cutters in the other. We don't know what the heck she has those for. And she sits down and she's talking away to us, meanwhile, she's hacking away and turning all these wire hangers into L's. And then she hands a pair out to everybody. She says, okay, now we're going to go into the backyard. We're going to find the water main. And I was not allowed to do it because I knew where the water main was, because it was my house. So they all lined up against the garage, and they take tiny little baby steps. And sure enough, all these little wire hangers, nobody knew what this was. She had not said the word. They all cross right on the water main. And I'm like, this is cool. I don't know. This is awesome. I had used a pendulum before, but I did not equate it at that time as the same thing. So then she proceeded to tell us, well, this is called dowsing. And in feng shui, you can use dowsing to help determine certain things. For instance, there's always math in feng shui. And so there are these equations that you can do, and they're long equations, but you can figure out, for instance, somebody's best direction. If you know your best direction, you might want to put your bed in that direction. That's going to be more sympathetic for you. If you have a couple and they have differing best directions, now you can do this whole equation to figure out his and hers, or his and his, whatever it is, both partners' best directions. And now you got to do another equation to figure out what the best one for the two of them would be. Now, this is taking a lot of time and a lot of headspace. I was not that interested in that. She said, or you can dowse. And you just, get out your little wire hangers and you say, what is her best direction? What is this? What would be the best compromise? And where should we put the bed? I said, this is amazing. I want this in my life. And then she said, you can also dowse for the best date for something, or the best time, the most auspicious time for something. She said, I've just dowsed and figured out my wedding date and my wedding time. And so you can do that too. So the class ended, everybody went home. I had my little wire hangers, and I was really intrigued, but it was nighttime, kids had to go to bed, whatever. So the next day we had a walk-in closet, and I took my wire hangers and literally went in the closet with my wire hangers to ask a question, a silly question like, is my name Nancy, whatever. And they go like this. I went, and then I asked another question. And so I did that silly question thing for a while. And then I asked things also, and I always tell people when I teach dowsing, start with no risk questions. Nothing is serious, right? You want to test and realize that you are starting a relationship with something. You're starting a relationship with, you don't necessarily know where it is, but it is a relationship. And so in any relationship, you're going to have some banter back and forth, and you're going to learn a little more, and then, it's going to deepen over time. And your trust
Okay, I have
level.
to just say, there was kind of a cute thing in the comments that literally you came out of the closet.
Yes,
Dowsing.
that's right. But I really didn't come out of the closet for a long, long time. That's why I talk about going in the closet, because I had to keep it under wraps for a very long time. I didn't know anybody who was a dowser in Dallas. I hardly knew anybody anyway, except my neighbors. And, if I got out wire hangers and started asking questions, well, that's not gonna, that's just not gonna fly, Orville. So this was back a ways. This is in 1989, 88, no, 1991. So, it wasn't, still, things weren't quite open. And they certainly weren't open in my neighborhood. So I stayed in the closet for a very long time. Anyway, this relationship builds over time, the relationship of trust. And so little by little, I started asking questions that had a little more risk, just silly things. Which day should I go to the grocery store? And then I would go on the day that was recommended. And usually something happened that was just a sweet little thing. And whatever, I kept it very light and very curious. And then bigger things like moving and what to sell the house for, and what to put it on for, and what to accept, and a lot of different things like that. And it started to grow and grow and grow. I didn't do it for anybody else for a very long time. And my husband was not exactly along for the ride. So that's another reason I stayed in the closet. But, a couple of things started to happen where he had to kind of scratch his head, because the guidance was pretty good. It came out accurately. So anyway, fast forward, and I started dowsing for much more significant things. And I didn't know any other dowsers, needless to say. And because I was raising my 2 children and involved with their school and all that, I never went to the library. It never occurred to me there might be a book on dowsing. So this is the silo that I developed my dowsing practice in. And over time learned how to ask questions, and over time learned how to get more and more out of the way, which I discovered was sort of the biggest piece of it. Those 2 things, how to get out of the way and how to ask a question without expectation, without attachment, and from the widest perspective possible. So no assumptions. So then after a while, I started to do it for friends, just for like a party trick kind of thing. Oh, ha, 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 don't pay any attention to me. But just by the way, you should break up with that guy. No, I didn't say that. But, that kind of banter. But people started coming back to me, a month later, 2 months later, and saying, gee, that was exactly what happened. Like, I couldn't see it when you said it, but then that's exactly what happened. So, I started to get more and more comfortable. And then I'm going to fast forward to 2010. And this particular year was a very, very challenging year. And I just knew I was depleted on every level, and that I needed to do something to restore myself, or I would be likely getting sick. I was at that vulnerable level. So I went to Tom Kenyon in the Pacific Northwest, and he had back-to-back sound healing workshops. And I went on what I would call now a shamanic journey, initiation. I didn't have words for it at that time. Now, I had been studying spirituality since I was 9. And I went to Findhorn. I went to lots of things. I studied under lots of different people. I looked into different religions and different philosophies and all over the world. And, I had done all of that before dowsing ever came along. I learned healing before dowsing ever came along. I learned how to use a pendulum, but I never used it very much. And so I did have a strong background in my spirituality was always on a track, kind of over to the side of my regular life. Many of us experience that, right? It's kind of like 2 tracks of the train. And here's where my spirituality is, here's my, because it wasn't safe, really. And so anyway, back to 2010 and going to Tom Kenyon. And by the way, I highly recommend, he has a lot of free material on his website. And if you want to hear the most exquisite music, that he has a 4-octave range, and he does these just channeled pieces. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I did that with him, and I came out of it at the very last practice. Right before going into the very last practice, I was so utterly changed by the whole process that I'd been through with him, that I had one last question, and I asked it internally, and in the process of that last practice, I received my answer. And the answer was such a reframe of what I had thought. And I was so grateful for this insight that would completely free me of some yucky stuff. I, in my mind's eye, went down on the floor, and out of me sprang the words, "I am a willing vessel, do with me what you will." That is not something I ever said before, not something I would think. It just came out. Quiet, within me. So I went home, and I felt incredible. I was so light and free and empty. And I was walking across my living room. My girlfriend was there. I was telling her all about my retreat and what I had experienced. And right there in my living room was this gigantic wave. It was like, huge. and beautiful turquoise moving slowly towards me.
So like a wall of water.
Like yes, but it was, kind of curling at the top. It was beautiful. Okay, this has never happened before. And I'm like, I'm standing there like this, and I'm saying to my friend, there's a big wave here. She said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm seeing a big wave. And then so as I was seeing that, I was also aware of a byline, kind of like a ticker tape thing going by. And to summarize, it said, this wave represents a push of evolution that is coming to the planet and will be anchoring in at the end of 2011. If you choose to swim with this or surf this, it will go much better for you than if you resist this change. And then the wave turned on its side. And so now it was a letter, like a curling letter C, like that. And the byline for that said, as the water pulls away from the shore and deepens into the seabed to get its energy to crest, that's the physics of a wave, so should you, me, but it's really for all of us, put your book learning on the shore and deepen into the wisdom of the earth and the wisdom keepers of the earth for your information. And then mix that with this incoming, whatever this incoming information, this wave was. And then that letter C, instead of falling right down into the water, turned into this figure 8 of flowing water. And it looked a lot like that. See? There.
Yeah, there I see. Like a figure 8.
It's a figure 8 of flowing water, which is also the infinity sign. So when that figure 8 of flowing water appeared, it was hanging out in front of my conscious, my third eye for a couple of days. There was no byline with it. There was no understanding it. And this is why I tell the story, because if it hadn't been for, I don't know, 15 to 20 years of dowsing by that point, I wouldn't have had a way to understand what that thing was. And so I sat down and I dowsed, and I asked for, does it have it? What is it? Does it have a name? And all these things. Well, see, this is where just the way I developed with dowsing, as I'm sure everybody on this call, if you've been dowsing, you are aware that your intuition improves when you douse. You might hear things or see things or get a nudge to ask something a certain way. And at least that's my experience, but I don't think I'm alone in that. And so I kind of got guidance to ask about its name, and I was told it could be called the infinity wave. And then over a series of dowsing sessions, I was told that it's this really a gift from a loving universe to help us through upcoming challenging times. Now, in late 2010, it wasn't as obvious. I mean, that was then. We had our challenges then too, but we had no idea what was coming down the pike, because we're in it now, and we have been for the last 4.5, 5 years. So anyway, I was told that it would anchor, it's going to anchor in at the end of 2011. Then I was told that I needed to share this with the world. And I was told to create workshops starting in January 2011. And I said, no way. I don't want.
They wanted you to literally jump off into the deep end.
Yeah. I said, no way. I've taught a lot of things in my life. I've been a producer, a director, I've been a performer, I've been a lot of things. I'm not afraid to get up and do that if that's what's required of me. But when it came to spirituality, that was this rail. And I wasn't comfortable in stepping into a leadership role at all. I still do consider myself a student. I think we all are. And I was quite content to stay that way. Anyway, they reminded me that I had said, I am the willing vessel, do with me what you will. And that's a vow, and that I had a mission, and that this was being revealed to me now, and that I needed to, I needed to take it up. So I had to take the advice of not to resist, So I went ahead and very nervously booked a room, told people about the workshop, had to charge people. I didn't even know what I was doing. It was the most uncomfortable thing. It was terrifying because I kind of like to have things organized.
Anyway, about a leap of faith. Yeah.
It was. And that's the point. For me, at least, I had to be pushed right over the edge of my control mechanisms, of my working it all up in my own little brain. I really had to trust that the universe would catch me. And it did. And it was amazing. And so I pulled from my experience at Findhorn, where I had learned a certain theory of evolution by Teilhard de Chardin, the 18th century philosopher, priest, writer, archaeologist, Renaissance man. And he taught a theory of evolution that had to do with a biological term in French, which is pédoncle, but in English we would say peduncle, which is a much funnier word. And a peduncle is where if you're looking at a let's say a wine bottle or a bottle that has a tapered neck, it comes in like this and then it goes into the neck, right? So the peduncle is right there in the shoulders, right in that cuspy place. And his theory was, for instance, you take a bunch of atoms, the atoms are moving, right? They're always moving, they're always spiraling actually. And they're in the bottle and they're moving upwards. And as they get squeezed into the neck, they start to bump up against each other and create friction. And when that happens and they're then squeezed into the neck, then what pops through is something slightly larger and slightly more elegant called a molecule. Now, within every tiniest thing, he believed, and I do too, is what he called a God spark. And so as you went up the chain, you would increase, the God spark. And that humanity was also evolving. And if you looked at a timeline, it would be, amoeba, and then you get up to the, and then crawling on the land, and then, and it's this long, long line of evolution. Well, we know there are a lot of other theories about evolution, but for the purposes of this chat, when you get to humanity, then the line goes like this. And at the top of that, he had an image of a human with an extra large head. And our skulls have been growing for the last 20 years. They are getting bigger. It's interesting. But that extra large, that would be called the superhuman. And that human would be able to be telepathic and have, all these abilities to heal and all these things. Well, of course, we have avatars already on the planet who can do those things. So it's kind of cool. Anyway, I took that theory of evolution. I taught it in the workshop. Then I realized, look at this. This is a kind of peduncle. And so really what the infinity wave, one of the things it represents is we are always expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting. And when we're coming back into here is when we're going through the 0 point. They don't touch, right? Those planes don't touch, but it's the squeeze zone. So a lot of times now when I have clients, I dowse for when they say I feel stuck. I say, well, let's find out where you are on this. Are you coming out of a peduncle or are you going into one? And if so, how far in are you? Sometimes people are 10% in, sometimes people are right there. And so there are certain things we can expect when we figure that out. And because we know, oh, look, it never stops moving. You're always going to be coming out and then expanding and then going back in. So you're taking the fruits of what you've learned on this last journey, squeezing them into something alchemically beautiful and moving into your next expansion. So it's kind of cool how Tayard and I kind of come together a little bit on
I love
this.
that. Let me ask you a question. So you said that the infinity waves, so I guess they're separate planes. So
Yeah,
they're not
it's called a lemniscate. So it never ends, right? It's always cycling.
right,
It's a circle flipped, and then never that cycle never ends.
but it doesn't touch at the intersection at the peduncle.
Correct.
They're okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So it sounds so yeah, to use the peduncle, it just energetically when it's getting into that point, it just happens to be peduncle material. They don't literally get squeezed because they're not on the same plane, but it's just that just happens.
It's like a compression.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's when you're the most contracted, you're coming in for that, before your next expansion. So it can be very uncomfortable and it can feel like it's taking forever, but it isn't. And so we pull that apart, when we're doing a dowsing session. Anyway, so that's how the wave came in. That's how dowsing started with me. And that's how dowsing helped me to understand the wave.
That's a lot. Let me just see if we have any questions here, just to keep us current. Let's see. We've got folks from North Carolina and South Carolina.
Oh, hello, people.
Yeah. And I just want to shout out to all the Dowsers that participated in the weather. There's a weather dowsing group hosted by the Tucson Dowsers. And so I feel like we all contributed to the lessening of Milton. So I'm very grateful for that. Okay, someone's saying when I've tried dowsing, the rods spin in circles. I've never had luck with them. Can you talk about why that might be? She uses a pendulum, and somebody else has the same thing happen.
So I guess, there are, okay, let me try to start that sentence again. When I first went to a dowsing conference, I was blown away by all the different baubles and bangles and beads, all the different, dowsing tools that are available. I mean, there were some amazing things. And so I tend to think that we are drawn to the tool that suits us best. If rods feel uncomfortable or awkward or whatever, then they're not for you. And use the pendulum. If you feel like you want to try dowsing with rods, I would suggest start with one, and what you can do, something very simple. You can just hold it out. And I mean, I usually have people start by saying, please show me a yes, please show me a no, etc. But you can also start with one and say, please show me where the road is, or show me, where a landmark around you is. And the rod will just slowly start to, yeah, so the road's over there. Exactly. So that's a simple way to start using the rod, and think about it as an outdoor tool. Really helpful for finding things or for just pointing you in the right direction. And maybe it's only a tool you use outside. It's good for finding water, as we know, but it's for other things as well. So that's one, if you're kind of shy about using a rod, that's one very simple way that I can tell people to use it. It's hard to hold them, to get them in just the right position, to have your arm, not too tight, to have your wrist not too tight, and have your fingers not too tight, so that the energy can be coming through your arm, either from the earth or from above, whatever you imagine. And so, imagining that hollowness. And so it can be a little hard, especially if you have rods that are too light. A heavier rod when you're starting is better, I think. I have really tiny little ones that are light, and they're fantastic. I can use them, but people who are starting can't use them because they're too flimsy and they fly around. And now, if you're using a rod and it's just rotating like that, I would say you maybe try programming it. Say, that's a little, and you could talk to them very directly. You can say, geez, that's hard to read. Could you make it easier for me? Please show me a clear, enthusiastic yes, or no, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and there's also I think a free booklet called Letters to Robin that
Wonderful.
talks about how to program your pendulum, which I imagine would probably work for your dowsing rods too. So
Absolutely, yeah.
we had a question about can you share how to get out of the way?
Oh, that's really good. That is why, for me, at least, I consider dowsing to be a spiritual practice. Because in general in life, as we are spiritually evolving, we want to divest ourselves of our egoic needs, shall we say. We want to be, I will speak for myself. I want to be as clear a vessel, that willing vessel I talked about. I want to be as clear a vessel as possible, not just when I'm dowsing, but when I'm living. And it doesn't mean I don't have emotions or feelings or wants or desires or any of those things. It just means that I try not to let my egoic needs lead the way. So if I'm asking a question and I can feel inside me, oh, I really wanted to say this, or I really wanted to say that, or I dread the answer, or any of those things, you're not out of the way. Okay, so how to get out? It's a process. Over time, it gets easier. So, and you can use your rods to ask, how far out of the way are you? So I love that. And
Do a percentage, I guess, right?
yeah, percentage, yes. On a scale of 0 to 100, to what degree am I out of the way? Or to what degree am I receiving clear, unadulterated information? And then you go 5%, 10%, 50%, whatever it is, right? And you get to, oh, I'm only 45% getting clear, unadulterated, information. Okay, then you stop, you close your eyes, you take a deep breath. First thing, breathing is so important, as we all know. I ask my guides and my angels, or whatever you imagine, to help me become less attached, and to help me have fewer assumptions. And I use the infinity wave to cleanse me. I wrap it from my head, across my body, down under my feet, across again, and up like that. And I let the wave clean me, clean me, clean me, taking away any detritus that I don't need in this moment. And after you've done those things for a few minutes, 5, 10 minutes, go back and ask again, now, how am I doing? And I would say it would be totally normal to go from 35, 40% to 80, 85% in a couple of weeks. And maybe more, I don't know, but with the diligence of that, you probably, I think everybody would get to, and once you get to 80%, that's pretty good. You know, it's not 100, nothing's 100, but 80% is pretty reliable. And then there are ways to check your dowsing, of course. Ask somebody else to douse for you. Do a different divination. Maybe pull a tarot card or do I Ching or whatever. There are other things. So you can come at it from different angles. But that's how I get out of the way. And so I hope that answers that question.
So do you know now when you're invested in something and you just clear your vessel to ask the question?
At this point, I'm not, every time I do a reading, it's over 95%. So I don't check anymore. For instance, just today, I was in a meeting and I doused about something that I knew what I wanted the answer to be, but I was like, okay, let's throw it up to the universe. And the answer came back, not what I wanted. So that's when I know, okay, I'm out of the way because I really wish that wasn't the answer. But yeah, so I don't check so much anymore, but and if I do feel that I'm getting in there, then I do quickly say, okay, God, help me out. Let me go. I always picture myself moving to the left for some reason. Like my hope personality kind of goes over here so that I'm just a vessel, just clear channel. And then words and phrases. And this is what happened over time. This is what I was going to say about the intuition, why I call myself an intuitive dowser. I think all of us are intuitive dowsers, but as soon as I start to work with somebody, I start to hear phrases, I start to see things, and I express them, and they lock in with a person. They go, yes, that's exactly it. And so as a result, we are able to sort of navigate without just yes or no answers because I get the direction from wherever I get it from. And I'm saying, I'll tell you where I get it from. I finally found out where I get it from. I get it directly from the universe. That doesn't mean everybody does. Some people get it from their higher self, some their guide team, some a different planet, a different star system. It could be whatever, and it could be from the earth. Sometimes I get readings from the earth. I mean, we're all able to go and talk to all the natural elements, right? With our rods. One of the best things about them. I mean, talking to a magnificent rock, what could be better than that? So I don't know that I'm always getting from the universe, but sometimes from the earth, but mostly from the universe. And I think the other person's higher consciousness also chimes in now and then. So that's where I hail from.
We just got a nice testimony from someone in the chat saying they've had a reading with you and that it was just very accurate and very helpful. So yeah.
Thank you, whoever said that.
So you do sessions. Tell us what like a session is like.
Well, I think it'd be fun if we did a question or two for people, whoever wanted to ask a question, because that's the best way to demonstrate.
Does it
What
have to
I
be
love
general
about
or do you
dowsing.
want specific? What?
Well, you know, a specific question is helpful, not like what should I do with my life? Those are kind of harder. But you know, something like I don't know, a move, a job, a career, even a relationship. You know, something along those lines. We all know we can douse for things like, you know, what color car should I buy? But I'm more interested in the life questions because, and we get to the nugget. We get to the nugget so fast. Dowsing is the best thing in the world. I love it so much. And because I've had a background in, you know, psychology and counseling and all of that, it plays in a little bit. But it's mostly because I start to hear stuff and then we communicate and get there quickly. All right, who would like to go?
Okay, I see a couple questions in the chat. And then after we do this, you're going to explain a little more about the infinity wave, and we'll get to have a experience of the infinity wave.
Sure.
Okay. So, okay, Gail says, what can I do to help sell a house? It's been for sale for over 4 years in a remote location.
Okay. Let me see if I can find Gail here. Where are you, Gail? Okay. Gail, are you able to come show your face? Where are you? Where are you? There you are. Okay,
Yes.
good. Yay. Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So of course we Dowsers know we always say, can I, may I, should I, right? Yeah. Okay. Gail, you want to know if there's anything, well, first of all, let's back up. Let's start from the widest perspective, okay? Without any assumptions. Is it in Gail's highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to sell her house? Yes, it is. Okay, great. And she's been having a hard time selling her house. Now, we Dowsers also know that we are not fortune tellers, right? We don't predict the future at all. But what we can do is ask about next steps that are in your highest good on all 4 levels, all right? So we got that it's in your highest good on all 4 levels to sell your house. Is there something that Gail can, well, is there what I can do is also ask, is there a time frame that it would be in Gail's highest good to sell the house? Yes. And has that time frame come yet? No. Okay. So your time frame is coming. Just out of curiosity, does it look like that time frame for Gail and her highest good will be sometime in the next year? Yes. Okay. And we can narrow it down, but you know, life is dynamic, so we don't hold anything as in stone. How about January? How about February? Yeah, like early next year. Okay. So is there anything that Gail should do to help the house sell? Yes, there is. Okay. So is there an inkling that you have about that, Gail?
Well, I've doused and I've released it out of the family, and we released family ties, and I've had a chat with the house and said someone's going to love you and take care of you, but still nothing's happening. So that's why I'm thinking there's something I can do. I just don't know what my next step should be.
So I'm just going to double check, because I'm sure you did a really good job with all that, but I'm just going to double check. Are all the family ties to this house completely severed? Yes. Is the house ready to receive new owners? Yes. So energetically, has Gail made it as clean as possible? Yes. Okay. So is there something on, so that sounds to me like on the emotional level, Gail has done everything she needs to do. So just asking this a different way, is the reason the house is not selling because of any emotional ties? No. Okay, so that's clear. Is the reason the house isn't selling because of any mental, is it happening on a mental level? No. Is it happening on a spiritual level? No. Is it happening on a physical level? Yes. So it's something with the house itself. Is it something on the outside of the house? Yes. Is it something on the inside of the house? No. Something about the outside of the house needs some tweaking is the word that I'm hearing. Does it have to do with where do you live, Gail?
Well, it's not my physically where I live. It's a family sort of family home.
Where is
And
it?
oh, it's Savory Island. It's a little island on the west coast in base of Desolation Sound in Canada.
You have to take a boat to get there?
Yes, a water taxi
Uh-huh.
and a ferry.
I'm just listening. So you get off the water taxi. Are there other houses on this island?
Yes.
Yeah. And then how do you get from there to the house?
Walking
Yeah.
after you get off the water taxi.
Does it have to do with walking to the house? No. Does it have to do with, does it have anything to do with the exterior color of the house? No. Does it have anything to do with the front door? No. Does it have anything to do with the walkway up to the house? Something about the path up to the house.
I'm getting the feeling that something's buried there or something needs to be
There's
set at
something,
peace.
yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. There's something going on with the pathway from the road to the front steps, or how you get. The house itself is fine. It's the path. So maybe you need to clear that. That's what needs to be.
I will.
That's it. That's it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, we figured
Wow.
it out. Woohoo!
That was amazing.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. The someone had a question on how you started, and I think it was the can I, may I, should I, kind of like the basic dowsing questions to ask.
Yep.
And then
And then when you're asking questions, you're always asking, is it in the highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good? Not necessarily in that order. That's just what I use. But because if you get a reading that, let's say, is 50% or 25%, you then back out. You say, well, is this in the highest physical good? Is this high in the emotional good, mental good, etc.? So you find out where the trouble is. That's what we just did with Gail. It wasn't happening on any other level but physical. It wasn't inside. It wasn't the actual outside. It was outside, but it wasn't the house itself. Sometimes the color, sometimes the front door. See, this goes back to feng shui. And those things can add or detract from.
Can I please ask a question? Myself, to clear that pathway or the walkway, usually I would spin my pendulum in a negative, in a no fashion, and scramble the frequency and get rid of any blocks, and then I would fill that space with love going in a positive way. How would you, what would you recommend?
What I would say, Gail, is that you're obviously quite capable. And so I would go out there and I would ask your pendulum to lead you to where the problem spot is. You know how it kind of can go forward, kind of lead you. Have you ever done that with a pendulum?
Yes, and I can't get there physically, but I can do it
Remotely?
in my mind. And
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So let your pendulum lead you to where the spot is, and then just dial into that spot and ask your guidance what needs to be done here, what needs to be said, or is there some kind of geometry that needs to be placed here? What needs to happen? Listen, because you've got it. You've got your intuition in there, and it's going to tell you.
Thanks. I really appreciate your help.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'm excited now.
Good, I am
well, and
too.
I think we all learned a few things on how to ask more questions about particular things. Okay, so Karen says that her landlord has just sold her home, and she finds out she needs to be out by November 30th, and she's not sure where to move. She's in Tucson right now. She doesn't have family there. She's 67, and she wants to split her time between her two daughters in San Diego and Austin. In her heart of hearts, she'd like to move back to San Diego, but she's not sure that's the right thing, and she knows she needs community. You know,
Okay.
yeah.
What's the name again, please?
Karen.
Karen. Let me find Karen. Karen, are you
I just
showing
unmuted. I just unmuted. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I gotta find your face.
I got a green background.
Oh, I see you. Yeah, I see you.
It just started getting dark, so
Yeah.
I haven't gotten up. And then I was like, oh my God, you hit the send button. You gotta go sit down.
Okay, so can I, may I, should I?
It's been like it's just been like a whirlwind, and I finally just was like, all right, it's just going to happen. And I cleared out so much, but I am, no matter what, I've never been an organized person, and it's usually because I still have some mom stuff with me. I just have stuff that just needs to go.
But I think we need, don't you, excuse me, Karen, don't you want to help determining where you should live?
Yes, but I'm saying I
Okay.
think that's clouding all of it.
Not necessarily. Let's
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So is it in Karen's highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to live somewhere in the contiguous United States? All right, so that's good. Is it in her highest good? And I'm just gonna, since you're already in the Southwest and everybody lives down kind of there, is it in Karen's highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to live somewhere in the Southwest of the United States? Okay. Is it in her highest good to live in California? Okay, now I get 25%. So now I'm going to say, is it in her highest physical good to live in California? 25%. Is it in her highest mental good to live in California? Same. Emotional good, same. Spiritual good, same. So it's only in your 25% in your highest good to live in California. So let's ask about Arizona. Is it in Karen's highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to live in Arizona? I get 50%. And is that across the board? Yeah, that's across the board, 50%. So that's a little better.
Ask about Texas because
I'm
her
going
other
to go
daughter
there
was.
right now.
Right, because I lived in Austin and San Antonio. I lived in both of those places.
Is it in Karen's highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to live in Texas? Yes, ma'am. Do you want to find out where?
Sure. Yes, please.
Is it in her highest good to live in the Austin area? 50%. Is it in her highest good to live in the San Antonio area? Yes. There you go. You're going back to San Antonio.
So yeah, my ex-husband lives there, so I don't know about that. No, I'm fine with
That's
him.
a big
I'm
place.
fine with him. I'm fine with him and his wife. We get along great. There's no problem there. I was just cracking up.
Well,
But
I get the
coming back.
sense, Karen, I get the sense that I'm seeing you having a lot of fun in San Antonio, like laughing and really in prior times enjoying yourself there very much. Is that the case?
Yeah, I had lots of friends. My kids grew up there.
Yeah. Okay. This is where your heart is.
Really?
This is where your heart is.
I would have lost that bet. Although I did tell both kids that I thought it was a good place for them to grow up. You know.
You have history there. You have knowing there. It's a comfortable old shoe, but it's got some kind of a joie de vivre, a spirit that is that tickles you, that you really just love. And that's what's in your highest good, according to this reading.
That's right. Can I just have one more question? I know you have a big thing, and it's the same thing. It's just the one on California was only 25%, because that's where I was born and grew up as a kid, but then I moved and then never got back until like a few years ago. Okay. So it's 50% Southwest. I mean,
no, it's 25% California, 50% Arizona,
right?
100% Texas.
Oh, 100. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Thank you for picking me. And thank you, everybody in the group, for just being there for me. It's huge. Wow.
Good luck, Karen. Good luck.
Yeah,
wow.
Thank you. We have two questions that are same from two different people. From Epic and someone else, is my move to becoming a financial advisor the right thing? And let me see. Lisa Ray.
It's the same person. It's me.
Oh, you're under here twice. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Lisa, can you come on and I'll where are you? Oh, there she is.
Okay, I'm here. Yes, I changed my name because you know me as Lisa Ray, but my old listing for Epic was on there, so I didn't want to confuse.
Ah, okay.
But I did.
Okay, is it in Lisa Ray's high? Oh, can I, should I? So I ask fresh each time because it's a new person. But if you, yeah, so anyway, that's my protocol. Lisa Ray, is it in Lisa Ray's highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good is it become a financial advisor?
Yes, I'm taking a training just very recently.
Okay. To follow through and become a financial advisor. Yeah, strong.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
From being a musician.
Yeah, that's so cool. Why not? Math and music go together. That's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm actually hearing that they're using the word path. They're saying this is your path. And
Wow.
you're really, actually, they're also saying you have no idea how positively you're going to affect people's lives. As a musician, you always want to do that. I'm also a musician, and you always want your expression to help people make, uplift them or whatever. You're going to have as much impact in this role, and you've been doubting that. You've been feeling a little bit like you've turned your back on something, like a purity of your expression through music, but they're saying no, you're not at all. You will be so surprised.
Oh. Wow. Thank you so much. It's so different and so amazing, and I will take that. And wow. And I know that I can help people in such a different way, and I think I'm clearing karma of my family's financial stuff.
Quite possibly.
Thank you so much, Hope. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. I'm really happy for you and excited for your new path.
Very different.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
think the world needs financial advisors with integrity
Yeah.
and using their intuition. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, all of you. You appreciate it.
Okay, Jody has a question. Can I please ask if I should use pendulum to dowse or rods or muscle test with my fingers? What would be in my highest good to get the most accurate answer?
Okay. Who's asking that?
Jody.
Jody, where's Jody? Jody.
She's waving.
Oh, there she is. Hey, Jody. Let's find out what your divination tool, what you're most suited to. Is that kind of what you want to know? Okay. Can I, may I, should I? First of all, is it in Jody's highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to be a dowser? Okay. Are there any other divination tools that she would be better suited to? No. Okay, so dowsing is your thing. So would it be in Jody's highest good? Well, let's see. Would it be important for Jody to pick a primary dowsing tool? No. Can she use just about any tool she wants to? Yes. So here's what I do, Jody, and you can see what you think. I use my pendulum when I'm clearing energy, when I'm doing a healing, when I want to know, what do I want to know that I don't ask for my rods? Well, sometimes if you want to use a chart, dowsing charts, like if maybe it's vitamins, maybe I could dowse for it or with my rods, or I could use my pendulum. What do I need today? What color should I wear today? All that kind of thing. It's a little faster than using the rods. But for me in general, the rods are faster and more nuanced when asking questions. So you saw demonstrated already, we only went to 25% for, California. And so if you'd been using your pendulum, you might have gotten a weak yes, but I'm much more happy seeing, oh, it's only 25%, because figuring out on your pendulum what's 25%, what's 50%, what's 75% is a little harder. So I use the rods for the specifics and the nuances of the questioning. Does that make sense? You're
She's muted. Let me ask to unmute you. You have to unmute yourself, Jody.
Thank you. Can you please ask about muscle testing? Because I use that a lot. And sometimes I dowse and sometimes I muscle test. And I just wanted to know what would be best for the most accurate. I mean, the hardest tool for anyone using any of those tools is to get themselves out of the way. It's a constant dance that one has to do. But for me, should I muscle test or dowse?
Okay. Again, it depends on what you're doing. If I'm in the grocery store and I'm trying to decide between two products, I'm gonna body test. That is dowsing. Muscle testing is dowsing. It's just a different form. So I don't necessarily want to pull my rods out and ask if I should buy this oatmeal or that oatmeal, right? I'm gonna just go, is it in my highest good to use this one? I lean forward, my body goes forward. You guys all know how to do this, right? Yeah. Or it goes back. Oh, no, Lisa Ray doesn't. Okay. What you do is you stand still, you put your feet together. I do this, but you don't have to. And you ask a yes or no question. And if the answer is yes, your body will literally sometimes push you pretty hard forward. And if it's a no, you'll rock back on your heels. Okay. There's also body dowsing with the fingers.
The fingers, I call that muscle testing. So
That is.
One of those techniques is not better than the other. Is that the answer?
It's site specific. It's how I would not use these. I would not use my finger dowsing for, intricate questions, because you can see how nuanced it is when we start getting sometimes the rods go, can't see because of my blurry back. Okay, I'm going to take my blurry background away. You'll have to see all my moving boxes behind me. Actually it's dark enough you don't see them. Okay, so for instance, sometimes they go like this, one's going one way, one's going the other way. And then you have to parse it out. You have to figure out, you have to dive down, ask a different question, ask it from a different angle, and you start to get, to the meat of the issue. That's harder to do with just finger dowsing, in my opinion. Now, maybe that's not true for you, but I would definitely use this for things where I'm out in public and I want a quick yes or no. Should I go left or right? Simple stuff. But nuance, I go to this. I go to the rods.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm a pendulum user for the percentage and the nuanced things. And just another way, kind of when you're in the grocery store, if you don't want to be doing this, you can take whatever the item is, hold it, against, I don't know, I usually like my solar plexus, and I'll get a yes or a no. So yeah, there's all sorts of ways. And this is easy to do when you're in a public place and you don't want to attract a lot of attention.
Right, exactly.
Or maybe you do and you want people to ask, and you can share your information about how you're a dowser. So yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure.
Okay. All right, we had a question. Cynthia says that she pendulum dowsed to find out her birth time, as it wasn't on her birth certificate. Could you rod dowse to see if the answer she received was correct?
Sure. And this is, sorry, I keep forgetting the names.
This is Cynthia.
Cynthia. Where is Cynthia?
You can unmute yourself, Cynthia.
Trying to find her.
I see her, but
oh, there she is.
Walking around.
Yeah,
you're muted, Cynthia. You have to unmute yourself. Okay, I'm not sure where she went.
She's there.
Yeah. Oh, Dee's here. Okay.
Yeah, having a hard time unmuting. 'Cause. 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 ' There she is.
Well, she just needs her birth time. So I guess technically we could, what, Dow's like you're going around a
Oh,
clock.
she's on now. So what, Cynthia, hi. Oh, she just went away. All right. There she is. Okay, speak, Cynthia. Speak. Can you hear? Can you hear me?
You're now unmuted, but we can't hear you. So just talk loudly, Cynthia.
She's not speaking. You're unmuted, Cynthia. Can you speak? No. Okay.
Okay.
There. Okay. So are there any other questions?
Ronald wants to know if he will receive the money that is owed to him this month.
Well, that is something we can't do because we're not futurizers. We can't look into the crystal ball. It's sort of a code of ethics, really, for dowsers. Yes, you all agree with that, right? Yeah. So sorry, Ronald. Can't really do that.
Well, this might be a time that we are ready to do the infinity wave.
Yeah.
This has been very helpful. I think people gotten to appreciate asking questions and using different modalities. So.
Yeah, and I just really want to underscore that whatever works for you is great. But always remember that there may be other questions to ask other than yes or no. You got to keep peeling back the onion layers to get down to the heart of the thing. And you know, I've learned a lot about that, and it makes all the difference. And the more you go, the more you start to hear, and the more. And somebody had asked about, well, who is it? What is it that you're channeling? And I said, the universe. But we don't really need to know in a way. What really matters is that we have built up trust because we've been given good guidance for a long time, or enough times that we can say, yeah, I'm gonna have faith in this, I'm gonna trust this, and I'm gonna live with this partnership, this beautiful partnership. So however that works for you is fantastic. Okay, the infinity wave.
Yeah. So do you teach us to do it? Should we just experience it, or we get a little bit of both? How does that work?
I'm going to lead you through a 10-minute experience of the wave, and that's the best way to learn it.
Okay.
Okay, so just a second. Let me get the music queued up here. So if everybody wants to get comfortable and close your eyes and just relax. Let me get this going here. Take a deep breath and exhale down through your body, down through your feet, down into the ground. Inhale back up into your heart center. And again, exhale down. And as you do, release anything that does not serve you. And exhale down into the ground, and then inhale back into your heart center. Those beautiful gifts that the earth provides. And just continue like that for a few moments. And now switch your focus to exhaling from the heart center up through the crown of your head, expanding above you and around you in all directions. And inhaling back into the heart center, all the gifts that that realm has for you. And do this for a few moments. Now, imagine that in your heart center, there's a little figure 8 made of flowing water. Just observe it. Notice if it has a color, how fast the water is flowing, and if it is turned in a particular way. If you have a hard time visualizing, you can always take your finger and trace a little figure 8 on your heart center to get it going. As you continue to observe this infinity wave, you may notice a little movement or a tug or some softening. There in your heart center. Now this figure 8, we're going to invite it to turn on its side so it parallels the floor. And as you inhale, the loops of the figure 8 are going to begin to stretch and get larger. Slowly, very slowly. They'll start to expand with every breath. One loop is reaching for the left rib cage, other loop is reaching for the right, but they move slowly. As you begin to widen the heart across your chest, notice how the flow of the water makes you aware of the infinite compassion that is inherent in this design. Infinite compassion for you, for all you have done in your life. Passion for the challenges. Passion for the wins. Passion for all you carry. And as this infinity wave continues to stretch across the chest, across your heart, within the water is also infinite love. Love for your choice to come here now. Love for your capacity to love. Not just others, but your capacity to love yourself. This infinite flow of love and compassion is widening your heart. Now, perhaps stretching almost to your rib cage, opening you in the most vulnerable yet safe way. Reminding you the importance of your presence here, right now. You can accept infinite love and compassion for yourself. You can give it to others. Now you may decide to let your heart stay this wide, or perhaps you'd like to shrink it back down where it's most comfortable. Whichever you decide, the infinity wave is now a part of you. You can carry forward for as long as you like. It is a beautiful way to stay in the flow of life, walking hand in hand with higher intelligence.
Thank you for that.
the thing that is important to know is that this figure 8, flowing water, is merely a symbol that we humans can wrap our heads around, right? The geometry, the water, there's a lot about it. I've written a book about it. And it's meant to, I lost my train of thought, sorry.
The wave is meant to.
Yeah, I know. I just lost my train of thought. But
That's
it's
okay.
meant to help us. Oh, I know. It's a symbol. The energy that it represents is huge and impossible for us to get our heads around. So we have this symbol that has this magical ability to not just shift our own molecules and put us into a coherent state, but shift reality in general. It has done so many times, not just with me, but with other people. I have lots of testimonials I get. It used the wave and it changed the dynamic in a room. It changed the outcome. It changed this, it changed that. And, you know, it's pretty incredible. It is, but so that's why it's just a symbol, but it reminds us, it gives us something to hang on to. And so I always encourage people to, you know, print it out. It's not just the infinity sign. It is the infinity sign. It's a huge part of it. And it's also the water. So it's the combination of those things. So I would go to my website, whatever, print it out and put it on your mirror and put it in your car and put it wherever to remember to stay in a flow state, because that's how we're going to get through the times we're in.
Print out the symbol of the infinity wave. Yeah. And people can they can do it for themselves. Can they do it for the room? They can do it for other people.
Yep.
So, yeah. And how long have you been using the infinity wave?
Since 2010.
And I guess things are too numerous to even mention the way that it's just impacted you and others.
Well, you know, it's a tool for evolution, spiritual evolution. And it's a way to become conscious of your evolution. That's what it was sent for. So that instead, remember I showed you, I talked about the graph that Teilhard de Chardin showed, you know, where evolution always seemed to be happening slowly in the background, but it's not. It's happening quickly, and we can get on that, and we can, if we're in a flow state, we are going to evolve much faster. And so that's why it was sent to us, to help us evolve. So I mean, I could tell thousands of stories, but I'll tell you one that is in my book, and it's one of my favorite stories, just to give you a sense of how it can change things. So in 2010, in December, after I'd given one weekend workshop a month for 9 months, that's what I was told to do, and that's what I did. And all these channeled practices came in. They weren't me. And I gave these practices with sound bowls. You know, I played sound bowl and gave these practices, and I noticed everybody evolving in these groups. It was unbelievable. And it wasn't just like a good weekend. It was lasting. You know, they were permanently changing and up leveling, and their joy quotients were going way up. So I finally, by the end of the year, I was like, I guess this is a real thing. You know, I was a little bit doubting there for a while. Anyway, in December, my girlfriend needed to have surgery. We were living in Massachusetts. The surgeon who did this very delicate bone, nerve, and muscle surgery on her neck. So, of course, one false move and she's paralyzed. So, you know, this is delicate stuff. And so I went with her as her advocate. And so we'd gone through the whole check into the hospital thing. And at the very end, the last thing we were waiting for was the anesthesiologist to come in and go over everything with us. And my friend had studied hypnosis before surgery, and she had a little beautiful piece of paper that she'd written what she wanted the anesthesiologist to say to her as she was going under and coming out to program the subconscious mind for better healing, better outcomes. So, she's in a rather nervous state at the time, understandably. I'm sitting at the foot of the bed. We're right in front of the surgery. And finally, in comes this woman who middle-aged, and she had on this funny little surgical cap that I always say it looked like a little pizza hat. It kind of puffed out like that. And it had little red flecks on it. I never saw anything like it. And she stood opposite me on the other side of the bed, and she had a clipboard, and she just had her eyes on the paper on the clipboard, and she never looked at her patient. And she just started rattling off, oh, well, this is what we're going to do today. And we're working on, whatever those neck things are, at whichever number they were. And I could see my girlfriend getting very nervous, and her lips started to tremble. And I thought, uh-oh, this is not good. Because everything was hinging on her being able to give her this piece of paper. And so I looked at her and I went, oh dear. So I looked at the doctor and I thought, I don't like this picture. I want a different one. And immediately the words that popped out of my mouth with no inflection, just flat. The words were, I like your hat, which I didn't, but those were the words that came out. And at the very same moment, my solar plexus felt like pop, like it was a pop right out of me. And the woman's head comes up, swivels, turns to my friend and says, hey, babe, we're going to do surgery on you today. Are you, oh, look what you have for me. It looks like a recipe. It's so beautiful. I love to say things. Is this what you want me to do for you? I love to do. She went from being in a frozen cage to being chatty Cathy in a nanosecond. And both my friend and I, our jaws dropped open because she was so cold and closed off, and then became like a warm, runny river. So I learned two things at that time. I learned that the wave packs a punch when it needs to, in its own divine intelligence, which is more than I could have conjured. And instead of intending something, I just said, I want a better picture. And what happens with the wave is that it takes a situation and it raises it to its highest and best outcome. It just does that. When you think about it, this poor woman probably had been back to back, surgeries, and God knows how tired she was or what was going on in her life. But she needed the biggest dose of love and compassion, which is what the wave knew and I didn't. And it came out of me like a bomb and hit her. And she immediately responded by becoming her beautiful self, who she really was. But so all this unfolded, without my interference, without my intentioning. I just said, I want a better picture. So that's an example of what this thing can do, and how beautiful it is. But it can be used for 1,000 things, and we haven't discovered them all, but I have a long list of them. But yeah, so it's a real thing.
I love that. I think we all need to just take that with us tonight and just say, I want a better picture.
Yeah,
not only personally, but for each of us, but also globally,
Yeah.
want a
Mhm.
better picture.
Mhm.
Want a better picture. Yeah. Especially for those that are suffering. Yeah, I want a better picture.
For sure.
Ooh, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. You're getting a lot of love in the chat.
Aw.
The so how can people find you?
Yeah, I'm at spreadinfinitehope.com. And I'll put it in the chat.
Sure. It's also will be on the replay and in the newsletter, but yeah, if someone's seeing this, spreadinfinitehope.com. And you do private sessions, but you also have a Monday night group. You want to tell people about that?
I'd love to. I kind of like you were saying earlier during COVID, I wanted to do something. I couldn't think, so I just started offering Monday night meditations, and I did the wave meditations, of which I had many by that point. And but then slowly over time, they started to morph, and suddenly I was channeling all these beings. See, I was never comfortable channeling in front of people, so they snuck in through the back door, and yeah, so now I do it all the time. But I was very shy about it, and so what I have usually 4 Mondays a month. The first Monday is the Infinity Circle. I go over the astrology. I gather from 4 or 5 different astrologers, and I put together a narrative for the month. And then we do a channel practice. Then the second Monday, I do a meditation, channeled meditation, just plain. Usually takes no more than half an hour, start to finish. Third Monday is a paying thing where I do what's called a channeling salon. And that's when people can come and ask personal questions of which whoever comes in. So we have a wide variety of folks who come in, from Merlin to Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Buddha, the Hathors. Yeah, like it's a list. So then on the fourth Monday, I have a community share, and that's new. And it's a chance for people to share their infinity wave stories, to ask questions about dowsing or whatever, and just come together and meet one another, because they're people from all over the world and they want to know each other. So that's what I do.
That's great. Well, we so appreciate you being here with us tonight, sharing your intuitive dowsing wisdom and your infinity wave. It's been wonderful. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you everybody for coming on tonight. And so great to see familiar faces and see some new ones. And just everybody keep waving and keep dowsing. It's so important.
Thank you,
Yes.
Glenn. Thank you, Hope. Thank you,
My
Mary.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.